It's happening right now. The darkest moment has arrived. You have 3 items in your pocket, and just one of them could save your life today. A cord, a life straw, and a lighter. Which one do you choose? Pay attention. 2 of these objects could get you killed in a split second. My name is Dave Steen, and in the next few minutes, I'm going to create panic among even the most respected survivalists. Because the story of how me and my family survived one of the most devastating disasters that ever hit America will finally put an end to all the survival lies you've been fed up with. And it will prove once and for all that no matter how much money you have in your bank account or how much you've invested in your survival plan, when it comes to a life-changing moment like this, your life and the life of your innocent child may very well depend on a useless household item like the one in your pocket. Like I said, I'm Dave Steen, and I've been a survivalist for over 30 years. You may have already read my articles on top survival websites such as The Grey Wolf, Survival Life, and Prepping Plans, or you've seen my warnings on news sites like The Blaze, WND, or Personal Liberty. Being an orphan, I had to make my way through life on my own. Nobody put food on my table, nobody helped me make a living, and nobody protected me from the harsh reality. That's why I've created this video, for all the Americans who are struggling financially, but still want to offer rock-solid protection to their families. So if you've ever thought survival was draining too much money from your pocket, or maybe your family doesn't understand why you waste money on prepping, or even thought about giving up because it was just too expensive, watch this short video until the very end, and you'll discover how a few mind-blowing techniques can slash your prepping costs up to 90% without compromising your survival plan. It's not about the money you invest. It's about what you can do right there, on the spot, with whatever you have on hand. In my case, there were 3 dirt cheap items I could use, and only one of them would save my life and the life of my little niece. It all happened a few years ago. I was in New York right when Hurricane Sandy hit the area. On the 26th of October, the New York governor declared a statewide state of emergency. Panic buying had spread with the speed of light, and New Yorkers were now fighting to get the last loaves of bread and bottles of water, including my brother. You see, my brother and I lived in 2 completely different worlds. He was adopted when he was only 3 years old by a very kind family from New York. Me, on the other hand, I wasn't as lucky. When we finally met 26 years later, we were both blooming young men living a good life, but with completely different backgrounds. That's why when Hurricane Sandy was about to hit New York, I rushed on the first plane there to help out my brother and his family. His naive trust in the government was beyond all imagination. He was convinced that an entire army would be at his disposal of New Yorkers all throughout the disaster. On the other hand, my expectations of governmental help were the lowest of the lowest. And still, somehow, they managed to go way below that, in the most ignorant and ruthless way I've ever seen in my life. For 1 entire week after the hurricane, FEMA was nowhere to be seen. Now, I don't know if you've ever been through a hurricane, but here's the thing no one ever tells you. The disaster itself is nothing compared to what comes next. During the whole thing, you're so filled with adrenaline, you barely realize what's happening. The roof above your head sounds like it's about to crush to pieces. You see water creeping in your home through every single crack, and you can almost feel the walls wobbling around you. Everything is so overwhelming, you barely have the time to take it all in. But the moment you take your first deep breath and hug your loved ones with tears of relief in your eyes, well, that's when the nightmare gets real. First, I hear the screams. I remember running down the street with water clutching at my ankles, trying to figure out what's going on. The whole neighborhood was sunk in pitch dark, and I could barely see the faces around me. There were many injured and a few kids separated from their parents. I don't know how long I stayed there, helping out any way I could, but by the time I was back with my family, my feet, hands, and jaw were violently blue with cold, and so stiff I couldn't move a nerve. It was freezing outside, and people had no source of heat, no power, no running water, and nowhere to go. They were waiting for FEMA. The hurricane, announced over a week before, took the $1 billion agency by surprise. Meanwhile, after 3 days, our stockpile reached the critical level we all feared. We only had enough for the 4 of us, my brother, his wife, his baby daughter, and myself. My brother and I had to take turns sleeping. People got angry about a day, and we were afraid for our lives. I can't even describe what it's like to see a mother fear for her daughter's life to the verge of breakdown. It's heartbreaking. So when I heard that one of our neighbor's baby was burning with fever and screaming with pain, I decided to go lend a helping hand. The only problem was getting out of the house and returning unharmed. Down the street, the rioting had started, as people were sick and tired of waiting for FEMA. In a desperate attempt to attract the attention of authorities, they smashed a car and set it on fire in the middle of the street. I used everything on my way to hide from them: cars, houses, bushes. I was ready to crawl like a snake if I needed, just to get back to my family safe and sound. As I was walking in slow motion and holding my breath, pushing myself to the limit of silence, suddenly I hear this tiny little voice. Uncle Davy, wait, you forgot these. In that very moment, my heart froze. It was my baby niece, running in her pajamas, holding a life straw and a lighter in her hands. She must have heard us talking around the house about how our survival supplies saved our lives, and she just grabbed them from my bug-out bag. I was looking at her running when I heard a loud, deep yell behind me. 6 desperate people were looking at the same little girl. Their eyes had nothing human in them. They were like rabid dogs. That moment, I knew there was only one thing I could do. I grabbed my niece, and I started running with her as fast as I could. I didn't know where I was going. I was driven only by the screams of the ones who chased me, and the screams kept getting closer and closer with every single step I took. I had no idea how long I ran with my niece crying in my arms. Only when I saw the old warehouse with its rusty door cracked open, I remembered taking the first breath in ages. I rushed to the door and slammed it shut behind me. The door creaked and cracked open again. There was no lock, no key, nothing. I could hear the screams outside louder than ever, and in a boost of pure terror, I put my niece down, and I searched my pockets. I always carried a small cord with me, just in case. I took it out, with my hands shaking like I was electrocuted. I quickly tied the 2 doorknobs together. Sure, it wasn't a deadbolt, but I could save us a good couple of minutes, which was more than enough for me and my niece to lose our tracks. We used the back door to flee the scene, and then hid behind a bush until we saw our chasers run right by us. It took FEMA 7 days to make us the honor of showing up after Sandy turned our streets into a ghost town. And even then, that's pretty much all they did. They showed up, put up a tent, and waited. They didn't even check to see if there were any people in need of medical care. They just sat there, expecting people to go up to them. As President Reagan once said, the 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, "I'm from the government, and I'm here to help." I never relied on the government, and never will. I saved my family's life with nothing more than a useless $1 item I had in my pocket. And all that time, when people were unprepared, hungry, cold, and sick, my father had food, water, and power 24/7. That was a lesson that completely changed my life, and I wanted to share it with you. It doesn't happen every day that a dozen looters attack you and try to take your most precious thing away from you. Unfortunately, it happens more than you'd like to imagine. It happened during Hurricane Katrina, then during Hurricane Sandy, and is probably going to keep happening every time a disaster or crisis hits the U.S. But here's a secret most survivalists don't know. The kind of survival I had to learn in that life and death situation is universal. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with a hurricane, a civil war, or a looter attack. This type of survival that I want to show you, in my opinion, the only kind that actually prepares you for the real deal, doesn't need any recipes. It doesn't require any fancy survival gear you barely know how to use. And it sure as hell doesn't require thousands of dollars, like so many so-called survivalists claim nowadays. Survival is basic, it's dirt cheap, and it can be dead simple too, if you know how to prep to the teeth. And I'll prove just how simple and cheap survival can be right now. I put together a system based on my knowledge and experience called Prepping for Pennies. It's not exactly a survival manual. It's a dirt cheap DIY survival techniques collection that covers every single need your family may have during a crisis. Because when your life is in danger and you're scared to death, your needs and wants are basic. They're always the same, and they come in pairs: protection and safety, food and water, and last but not least, physical and mental health. That's all. And I will show you how to cover each and every one of these needs now, even if you can barely afford to buy groceries every month. In preparing for Pennies, I gathered all my tested techniques that you can use to keep your spending down to zero for almost your entire survival plan. Sure, you'll have to invest in a couple of items, but most of them are absolutely free and work even better than the overpriced retail merchandise. And by the way, this is a surefire way to avoid the fake marketing hype as well. Plenty of my survivalist friends and subscribers complain that survival takes too much money out of their pocket, especially since a lot of the survival gear on the market is grossly overpriced. So I showed them Prepping for Pennies, and their response was way beyond my expectations. Jason from Ohio said, "I've been trying to prepare for years, but my wife is completely against it because it takes way too much money from our already tight budget. I've tried to cut several expenses as much as I could, but I still couldn't convince her it was worth it. Now I showed her Prepping for Pennies, and she couldn't believe prepping can be this cheap. She finally gave me her blessing, and she's actually very supportive. We've already saved thousands. Thank you so much." Allison from Colorado also sent me a message. "Dave, your Prepping for Pennies really made me mad. I can't believe how much money I've spent on survival so far. I want to punch myself. And what infuriates me the most is that no one ever talks about it. All those senior survivalists out there, none of them ever told us, hey buddy, there's a cheaper way. Here's how you can save $1. Thank God I found your system, and I hope your word will spread to as many families as possible. Michael from Oregon is also thrilled with my system. I got your book last week, and so far I've saved $480. I literally cheered out loud when I saw the numbers. This is mind-blowing. And here's my personal favorite, sent from Jim from Alabama. You have no idea what sacrifices I've made to keep to our survival plan, even if now we're in deep financial trouble. Since my wife lost her job, we struggled for every penny we saved for prepping. But sometimes it was just too much to handle. So imagine how happy we were to find Prepping for Pennies. It took a burden off our shoulders, and we both want to thank you for sharing this. You helped keep our survival plan alive. That's exactly why I wrote Prepping for Pennies, to help people survive even when they can barely make a living. Here's what the Prepping for Pennies system will show you. How to instantly slice your survival cost of pennies by using my 7 secret slicer techniques I perfected over 30 years of experience. How to identify the most overrated survival gear and replace it with unbelievably cheap items. These are more likely to save your life during a crisis than the overpriced stuff in the stores. The one thing you need to ignore from the very beginning to keep your budget next to zero. Survival gurus won't tell you this because they want you to spend as much as possible or simply don't know any better. How to save thousands while building a 1-year stockpile for your entire family. Food prices have gone up 50% in the last few years, and we've been warned of a new massive spike this year. The reliable source of survival funds that didn't even cross your mind. My wife and I sponsored nearly all of our survival efforts this way, and we never even touched our savings. How a simple idea from the Pilgrims can help you prepare for any disaster or crisis, and how to use it today to save thousands on your survival plan. The most important 8 things you can repurpose from a used car, which can successfully replace some of the priciest survival items that most people spend thousands on. 5 places with free firewood to get you throughout an entire year. I will lead you straight to the jackpot, so you don't have to waste any time stocking little by little. 11 things to look for at a garage sale and flea markets, and how to make sure you get insane deals for every single one of them. The little-known method to get a great survival shelter for pennies on the dollar without having to build it yourself. The best money-saving coupon strategies that most preppers still haven't figured out. In fact, I strongly urge you not to listen to the usual advice. It will only drain money out of your pocket. 4 ways to stockpile water on the cheap. Number 1 and number 4 are by far the best money savers. The 2 great online sources for pennies on the dollar supplies, plus 4 buying conduct rules you must follow if you want to keep your spending close to zero. The secret gold mine of dirt cheap bulk foods that most stockpilers ignore. I get nearly all my food this way, and I get deals most people wouldn't even dream of. The 60-second techniques that allow you to turn your everyday item into perfectly functional survival gear. It doesn't cost a thing, but it will instantly turn you into a prepping sensei. 32 ways you can turn ridiculously useless items you already have in your home into the sturdiest gear you've ever had. Even $3,000 bug-out bags have nothing on that. And this is just a glimpse of what you'll find inside. To be honest, we both know that it's not all about money here. When I was trapped in that warehouse with a bunch of hooligans trying to kill me and my niece, the only thing I could think of was safety. Whether I had a $3,000 super survival tool or a $1 rope, it didn't matter. I just needed something to keep the thugs out. All it took was one life-saving idea, and I instantly turned a dirt-cheap object from my pocket into an efficient defense mechanism. And you can do that just as well. I'll show you over 40 objects you already have or can easily get for free that you can transform into sturdy survival gear. After all, this is what Prepping for Pennies is about. Survival above all, above money and budgets, above skills or experience. This is a collection of tested methods described in the tiniest detail, with crystal clear instructions that are meant to help you with one thing only: prepare for any disaster or crisis for just pennies on the dollar. And all you need to do is to click on the orange button below. A lot of these secrets helped me survive when I had nothing. They helped me develop simple, ingenious strategies that fit any survival scenario. Everything I know about survival on the cheap, I learned it myself by trial and error. I lived everything. That experience is priceless, and what makes me happiest is that I can share it with you and help you slash your prepping costs up to 90%. That's something not many people can offer. Most survival books on the market go into one category or another. There's the basic copy-paste survival guide that doesn't give you any kind of valuable info. A 10-year-old can write that type of manual. I'm sure you've read at least one of those. Sure, they don't cost a lot, but if you think about it, since the books have nothing to do with real-life disasters and crisis, you end up wasting your money. Plus, you end up putting your loved ones into danger, because you'll only get a false sense of security. Then there are the other type, the super detailed survival plans that include survival gear so expensive you could sell your home and still not be able to buy everything on the list. Of course, they're written as suggestions, but you soon realize that without these suggestions, your plan is just as protective as a woolly sweater against bullets. Now here's what makes prepping for pennies completely different from anything you've seen before. Unlike a similar survival system, this one is designed to save you thousands of dollars without compromising safety for one single second. The system goes from A to Z in the tiniest detail. It covers every survival scenario, so you can rest assured your family's protected no matter what happens. Plus, it costs you close to nothing. You see, when I had to set a price for prepping for pennies, I didn't use some complicated marketing or accounting formulas like some of my fellow survivalists advised me. I set my price using a very simple principle. It's called the 1-second choice. Remember when I asked you about the 3 items in your pocket? Imagine you're in the same situation and you have to make a decision now. Hesitate and your entire world crashes to pieces. With prepping for pennies, I make sure that never happens. No matter what situation you're in, you will be prepared to the teeth at all times, even if all you can use is whatever you have in your pocket at that moment. That's something you can't really put a price on. So I thought of asking my friends and readers, how much would you spend on something that can help save your life in one single second? The answer started from $500 and went up to enormous amounts. And my friends don't even have that kind of money to spend. But when it comes to saving their loved ones or their own lives, there is no limit. And I agree with them. I would take the last $500 out of my account, eyes closed, if I knew it would save my children or my wife. And I'm sure you would too. But my goal isn't to make you spend hundreds. It's to help you save tens of thousands with minimum investment, because I know how hard it is to save money for prepping in this economy. So I thought $100 would be a fair price for what I had to offer. But all my friends said I was insane. It's like giving it away. All this work, 3 decades of experience, for $100. All this talk about money and prices brought me back to my goal. Reach every American, especially the ones who struggle to keep their families safe in this economy. So I lowered my price as much as humanly possible, straight down to $39. This way, if you order this system now, it will be just the first of many times you'll save money on survival. Prepping for pennies is crammed with techniques that can save you up to thousands of dollars on gear, supplies, and even survival retreat backup plans, something not many people can afford. With your investment today, you can afford full survival coverage for your entire family, including items that will normally cost $20,000. Not to mention, you're also protected by our 60-day money-back guarantee to make your investment completely risk-free. You can try the system for 2 whole months, and you decide whether you want to pay for it or not. If you're not pleased with it, send me an email, and I'll send you every penny back. No questions asked. Just click on the button below, and you'll be redirected to a secure order page where you can get Prepping for Pennies risk-free. Yes, I am that confident in the results you'll get with this system, and most important, in the insane amounts of money you'll save. You, on the other hand, risk nothing. I'm handing you everything I know in the tiniest detail, so you don't have to go through the same hell I did. And that's not all I got for you. Besides prepping for pennies, I'm throwing in 3 bonus materials for free. The first one is called Making Your Own Survival Equipment, and it can save you up to $14,600 on survival gear. All the techniques and plans in this book have been tested by me personally, and also by my fellow survivalists who've tried prepping for pennies. I have spent the past 2 decades perfecting this home system to guarantee perfect functionality while dragging the cost as low as possible without compromising quality. It was a nerve-wracking job, but now I proudly present you the ridiculously cheap method of building your own solar panels like a pro without paying any of the obscene pro prices. Initially, the blueprints were written for my son's school project, so they're so simple a 16-year-old can do it. Also, I'll show you how to get hot water 24/7 without paying a penny for it. Let nature do all the work and keep your money where it belongs, in your pocket. Paying too much for electricity? No worries. You can now unplug your refrigerator and use my exclusive homemade Zier pot to keep your food cool. You'll need it for your stockpile. Now these methods will save you a load of money, but if you're the person I believe you are, you put your family's safety first, no matter what. That's why I'm sharing with you inside secrets that even the most dedicated preppers have no clue about, such as the one crucial thing you need to add to your survival knife to make it 100% safe and reliable in any situation, whether you use it for defense, for cutting, or for digging. The only water biofilter that you can make anywhere in the world at all times with just a handful of materials. I'll also show you how to keep your loved ones warm with a weird type of fuel that you can make at home without putting anyone in danger, not even curious little kids. And I have many, many more jaw-dropping secrets for you. Just remember, all these blueprints are tested and perfected by me over the years and come with pictures, diagrams, and step-by-step instructions. Basically, it's impossible to get it wrong. The same goes for the second bonus material that you will love, and, modesty aside, will thank me eternally for. It's called the Schepeller generator, and it was the scientific breakthrough that caused Hitler to lose the war. Now, I don't know about you, but in the past 3 years, I've seen so many generators that allegedly changed the face of history that by now we should be wallowing in free energy everywhere. Trust me, I've tried them all. Yes, all. And only one worked. This one. You cannot even picture the overwhelming joy I felt when the little buzzing generator on my garage table started spinning like crazy. This guy, Schepeller, was truly a genius and a hero. He sacrificed his entire lifetime's work to deter Hitler from conquering Russia. You'll find out more about it in the bonus, but the most important thing you'll discover is the full revised blueprint for Schepeller's generator, complete with detailed diagrams and pictures. If you're skeptical, I perfectly understand, and that's exactly why I'm throwing this blueprint in for free, instead of charging $129 as it would normally cost. Just try it out. Light a bulb, charge your phone, power up your house appliances, light up your living room. You'll see exactly what this generator can do when you start using it from day one. And then you'll be able to finally stick it to the electric company like you always dreamed of when you see your bill getting even higher, if possible. Once you set the Schepeller generator, up to 85% of the money stays in your wallet every month. Think of how much you can save in 1 year. Instead of throwing all that money down the drain, you can use it to secure your family's protection. This way, no one's ever going to tell you you're spending too much on survival. I guarantee you that, especially when you're going to use the techniques in Bonus 3 to make and implement the most efficient, dirt-cheap bug-out plan you've ever seen. I called it Bug-Out Planning Guide, and it has over 52 tested methods, dirt-cheap items that are even better than brand names and DIY under-the-lid tricks that will make you ask yourself, how on earth did he discover this? You see, bugging out is my survival craze. Most people spend tens of thousands of dollars on emergency retreat. But honestly, I never understood why you'd want to do that when you can spend even 100 times less if you follow 3 simple rules. I will show you how to get a fully equipped bug-out bag that you can see on premium survival websites for scraps of what you would be paying. I'll expose this system to you step by step, every single detail at a time, so you don't miss a thing. I'll also show you my crazy yet perfectly safe way of getting to my bug-out retreat, even in the most dangerous disasters. Once you try it out, you won't find it so crazy anymore. Think about what really matters. Your family. Remember what happened to my niece in broad daylight, right before my eyes? A sweet kid who wouldn't hurt a fly, facing an army of savages. Now imagine yourself in the same situation. Imagine your kid clutching at your shirt in pure terror while those beasts chase her down the street. Those monsters are worse than anything she can ever imagine living under her bed, and you will see it on that tiny face struck with fear no child should ever know. What will you do then? When you go through your pockets and all you can find there is an old cord, will you be able to save your family's life? If you want to be prepared, and I mean really prepped to the teeth, regardless of money, experience, or skill, then grab Prepping for Pennies right now. Be more than just a survivalist. Be the person your family needs more than ever. Be worthy of their unconditional love. That, my friend, is truly priceless.